So you've got a rental property and you want to figure out exactly how much you're going to be profiting on that property. We get questions all the time about what you should be budgeting for your long-term rental expenses in order to make sure that you are profitable and that you're prepared for any of those emergencies that come up throughout the tenancy period. And so today we are going to break down 5 things that you need to consider when it comes to looking to see if your rental is actually going to be profitable on a monthly basis. Hey guys, I'm Andrew Lewis, real estate investor and entrepreneur with over 10 years experience building and growing a real estate team and investing in real estate. Before we get into today's video, please take a minute to hit that like button, leave us a comment below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos. I'm here to help you break out of the 9-to-5, gain financial freedom, and grow wealth through real estate. I see this mistake all the time where somebody is looking at the potential of renting out an investment property they have as a long-term rental, and they simply just go, my mortgage payment is this, I'm gonna ask this much for rent, here is my cash flow. But I wanna help you dig in to find a better number that truly accurately reflects that cash flow, what you can actually expect to get at the end of the year, because the reality is that number between your mortgage payment and the rental number is not actually what's going to end up in your bank account at the end of the day, because I promise you there are going to be repairs that need to be made and other expenses that you need to account for. So I want to help you break all that down so you can have a realistic number and properly evaluate your rental properties. Number 1 is your mortgage payment. This is the one that nobody forgets about, right? Because they know my rental payment minus my mortgage payment equals my cash flow. And as a general principle, that can work, but we're here to break it all down for you. So when we're evaluating the mortgage payment on the property, it's important that you remember 4 pieces to that. There is principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Usually those taxes and insurance are impounded into your monthly payment, and so you want to make sure that you are factoring all of those in. If you go online and you look at Zillow or any realtor's website that calculates what's my payment, they are simply running those numbers based off of principal and interest and are usually shortchanging you, because that number is going to be much lower than if you were to include the taxes and the insurance that come along with that. There are some states that charge a lot in property taxes, and there are some that charge just a little bit. And it's important to know that, but those websites can't distinguish that. And so it's important that you know what your property tax rate is for the area that you're looking in, and a real estate professional can get you that information, as well as what your property insurance payment will be on a monthly basis. So talk to an insurance broker ahead of time, give them a general idea of what you're looking for, and they can give you that ballpark range so that you can properly calculate that number. So again, for your mortgage payment, be sure that you are including principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. In the industry, you will hear that referred to as PITI, or some people will say PITI. So if you hear those terms thrown around, that's what they're talking about, but that is your all-inclusive actual monthly mortgage payment. Number 2, this one people a lot of times like to forget about, but this is your repairs and maintenance. We all know it. If you are a homeowner, things happen, sinks leak, faucets drip, water heaters break. All of those things can happen at any time, and you need to be prepared for it. And so I want to give you a number here that you can calculate to make sure that you are prepared for those things ahead of time. And again, when we're factoring in the cash flow, we should be looking at, I'm setting aside X amount every single month for repairs and maintenance. This is just smart business practice. You know it's gonna happen, so quit trying to guess your cash flow with leaving this out and just hoping you can get by without it, because it's going to happen to you. When it comes to repairs and maintenance, we recommend a budget from 5% to 15% of your rental payment towards repairs and maintenance. This should just be going separate before you take any profits out of things, 5 to 15%. Why such a big range? It totally depends on the property that you've purchased. If this home was built in 1950, you're going to need to go to the higher end of things. Those things are gonna come up much more frequently. If the house was built in 2020, then you can budget the lower side of things, down at the 5% range. But you're just gonna need to find that number based off of the repairs that you know need to go into the property just to get it ready for a tenant, and what you can expect based off of the life expectancy of plumbing, fixtures, appliances, all of those pieces. Take that into consideration. Be conservative here. I would rather that you budget way too much here and it eats away at your cash flow, but you will be in a much, much better place when those repairs come along and things happen. So 5 to 15%, totally depending on how new or old that property is. Number 3 is vacancy. We all love to imagine in the long-term rental space that my home is going to be rented out all the time. I'm gonna have a tenant that lives there for 15 years, pays off my mortgage for me, everything's gonna be great. The reality is people are going to move. And especially if you're running this like a business and increasing rents like you should, and I always recommend that, tenants are going to leave, and that is okay, but you should be budgeting for some vacancy. The general number here is from 3 to 10%. Again, this is going to depend on the area, and if you've got a booming area and there's tons of population growth, then you can usually run that at the lower end of things. And honestly, if it's a great booming area, you can probably budget about 2% for vacancy on that side of things. If it's an area with a little bit slower growth, you got a great deal on a property and you bought it for 50K, hey, it's probably not an area that's exploding with growth, and you should account for the rental demand in the area being less. And that means your vacancy rate is gonna be a bit higher. So you need to run that at 10% in some of those areas. You can get those numbers from property managers and real estate professionals as well, and they can tell you what the general percentage is for your area. But again, make sure that you're taking that 3 to 10% number and running that based off of your monthly rent payment. So if you're getting $3,000 a month in rent and you're at the 10% vacancy rate, then you should take that 10%, $300 a month, and put that aside for when the property is vacant, when a tenant moves out. That way you're able to cover that monthly mortgage payment. Number 4 is capital expenditures. In the business, you'll hear this referred to as CapEx, and this is a number that you should always be accounting for, and probably the number one piece that people forget about. These are your less frequent repairs to a property, but technically, per the IRS code, these are repairs made to a property that increase the property value. So this can include things like a new roof, new appliances, AC, heat, some of those pieces, some of those bigger ticket items that would kind of fall in the repairs and maintenance side of things, but because you've put some of those things in, they've actually increased the value of the property. Could include flooring and some of those pieces, new windows as well. So you should be budgeting for those things, because again, if you're holding this as a buy and hold, and you're gonna hold this for the next 30 years as part of your retirement plan, you need to expect that some of those things are going to need to be upgraded over time so that you can continue to increase those rents and run this like a business. So when it comes to CapEx, you're going to run that number at 5 to 15%. Again, a big range, just like repairs and maintenance, but that's totally gonna depend on the newness of the home. If it is a newer home, you can look and budget at 5%. If it is something older, built in the early 1900s, you should be budgeting that at 15%, knowing that things are going to need to be upgraded. Those old windows eventually are going to need to be replaced. That old roof eventually is going to need to be replaced. If it doesn't have copper piping throughout the house, it's going to need to be replaced. So keep those pieces in mind, make sure that you're budgeting that accurately. And again, typically a property manager local in your area can give you a good number to run this off of, but usually you can guess this on your own, really dependent on the age of the home. And number 5 is management fees. If you are going to manage this on your own, you can skip this step altogether as long as you're accurately budgeting those others. But if you're not, and you want this to be truly passive income where you don't have to think about it and you just have checks come in the mail for you, then you're gonna have a property manager for this. If you're doing 1 or 2 properties, you can totally do it on your own. If you're looking at growing a portfolio, 5, 10, 15, 20 properties, you're definitely gonna want to involve a property manager, especially if you've got a full-time job going as well. So if you're looking at a property manager, it can range totally depending on your area. Some property managers will charge you 10% of the monthly income from your rental property. Other areas are flat fee, and it can be as low as $100 a month. It totally depends on how saturated your area is with property managers, and you can call around to get some of those prices, but don't be surprised if you hear 10%. It just means there's fewer managers in the game and they're able to go and charge that going rate, especially in some of those bigger areas. Some of the more rural areas that are flooded with property managers though, you're gonna see it be very competitive. And again, it can be 100, 200, 300 bucks a month, but do your math here, call around, make sure that you get some of that information. Up front, you're usually gonna pay some fees as far as tenant placement, and then you'll have the monthly fee as far as the property management for the ongoing management goes. So it can be, again, anywhere from 100 bucks up to 10%, totally depending on your area. So do some research ahead of time, call around to property managers and get the information that you're looking for. Those are the 5 things that you definitely need to be considering when it comes to budgeting out that rental property to make sure that it's making you money and you're truly calculating your cash flow. This will give you a true net number that prepares you for just about anything that can happen with the property. So make sure you're taking all those into account. As always, we highly encourage that you do your research in any market that you're looking for. If you are looking in a specific area, call up some property managers, some real estate agents, and ask those questions about vacancy rates and maintenance and repairs and CapEx and what do the property management fees cost. Do some research ahead of time so that you can accurately budget those numbers. Now, I say all of this to go, these numbers don't make or break a rental property for you. So please don't be so rigid with these numbers that you walk away from something that could be cash flowing you $500 a month just because it doesn't fall within those windows. So use them as a guide. If a good deal comes up and you know it and it's cash flowing, but some of these numbers make it tighter, go for it. And hey, I tell property owners all the time, depending on your income level, you may be able to squeeze some of those away. If you've got a reserves account set aside of $50,000 ready to go, you don't need to budget those because you're ready for just about anything. Even those CapEx expenditures that are gonna be your bigger ticket items, you're ready for those with that kind of money. And then you can budget to refill those accounts later after you've used it. So if you make a great income and $3,000 repair comes up for you and it's not something that would financially destroy you, then you can get away with some of those numbers being on the lower side. If you're tight on things and you're just tapping into this and you are making sure that you can make that monthly mortgage payment so you don't default on that loan, then be conservative with these numbers and definitely stick to them to make sure that you are hitting those numbers and can afford to cover that mortgage payment even when those repairs come up. So I always say, hold these numbers loosely. Don't let a good deal walk away because they're a little bit tighter, especially if you know you're getting a great deal and you can raise those rents later. But always keep in mind that we should budget these, evaluate them truly before diving into a rental property. I hope all of that information was super helpful for you and helps you going forward to make sure you don't make a mistake on a property you think is truly going to cash flow and you find out later that it was just a dud of a deal. So I hope it saves you a lot of heartache in the future. Run those numbers honestly. If you like today's content, make sure you take a minute to hit that like button, leave us a comment below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos. As always, I'm here to help you break out of the 9 to 5, gain financial freedom, and grow your wealth through real estate. We'll see you next time.